Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Beruchim Abayim. Welcome everyone. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot. We are on Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, the second wide line by two dots. Lefichach imotehen shel kohanim. Today's Amud is being learned as a zchut for the neshama of Esther bat Naftali Tzvi Alevi. Has been dedicated by Mark Abraham and the Abraham family. It has been dedicated also for Rifah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have a full recovery, and also as a zchut for Yehuda ben Asher and Anal Bat Zipora. Hashem Yimale Kol Mish'alot Dibam Letova Be'ezrat Hashem by Menachem Kashanyan. This week's learnings of the community has been sponsored by the Dayan family, by Kohen family, and by Shei family. It should be an ultimate zchut for their families. Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So we said a very enigmatic, very interesting thing about the Kohanim Gedolim, as the highest office in Klal Yisrael as it is. At the same time, it's very dangerous to be a Kohen Gadol because you have entire cities of refuge davening for you to die. It's a pretty interesting, awkward and ironic situation. And said the Mishnah, Lefichach imoten shel Kohanim Gedolim, the mothers of the Kohanim Gedolim, they themselves are busy in their job as a Kohen, but their mothers who cared about them, they would go and try to convince these people who murdered people, b'shogeg, accidentally, that they should not daven for the Kohen Gadol to die, right? Because of course you go to jail, the first thing you do every morning after Modeh is, the one that put you in there, you wish them well, right? That's what happens. So therefore, the mothers of Kohanim would go across Eretz Yisrael. And you have to understand, this is like 48 cities traveling around the country trying to appease these people. Now, of course, it's the obvious question. The obvious question is, so anybody that's successful and people are jealous or a person who is a judge, and when you're a judge, 50% of the people hate you. That's what it is, right? Not everyone goes happy out of the court case. So people who are subject to this, they're going to be dying because people daven for no reason for them to die. The tefillah of a person that davens is going to be just accepted like that. Doesn't seem logical, but forget about logic. It's a pasuk. The pasuk says a tefillah that is bechinam is not a curse, a tefillah or a klala which is not due, is not going to happen. Says the Gemara. Tama de lo matzlu. The reason that the Kohen Gadol now it's not going to die is because these people are going to stop davening for him to die. But if they would daven, hamatzlu ma'it, they would die. The Hakativ, the pasuk says, katzipor lanud, kadror lauf, ken kilerat chinam lo tavo. Just like a bird that just flies, it's nothing. The klelav, the curse that is chinam, is baseless. It's not going to come. So says the Gemara, something fascinating. Amar lu Ausava mi pirkeh de Rava shmiali. I heard from the shiur the Rava gave, shehaya lahen lebakesh rachamim al doran velo bikshu. That this is not chinam. This tefillah of the Rotzeach, it's not chinam, because it was the job of Kohen Gadol to daven for his generation, and he didn't. It was his job to daven that these types of things should not be happening, and he didn't. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you take a look at the Targum, on this pasuk that talks about the Rotzeach going to Arei Miklat, to the cities of refuge until the Kohen Gadol dies, the Targum actually says it black and white. It says, because the Kohen Gadol should have davened when he was once a year in Kodesh Kodashim, davening for Klal Yisrael. He should have added these things, that people should not be, caused to death, to die with accidental causes like this. He has a responsibility of davening for Klal Yisrael, for the Chataim. We all know in the Mishnayot in Masechet Yoma, which becomes part of the Avodat Kohen Gadol that we say in the Musaf of Yom Kippurim, part of that very much is that he would bring a korban al kol hachataim va'avonot ha'pshaim, all the sins of Klal Yisrael. His job is to create atonement for things that have happened and to try to prevent things from happening by his tefillah. You say, well, a tefillah like that works? The answer is, of course it does. We all remember the Gemara, the famous Gemara in Masechet Brachot, Daf Yud Amud Bet. The Gemara there says, Rabbi Meir, of Rabbi Meir Baal Hanan's fame, he had bad neighbors who bothered him constantly, and at some point he had enough with them. He starts davening for them to die. And Bruria, his wife, the brilliant wife, sees her husband davening like that, says, well, what are you doing davening for them to die? And then get into a whole Tanakh debate, so to speak. You need the Maharsha to actually explain exactly the grammatic depth of the debate that Bruria has with her husband. Says, well, you're davening to them for them to die because the pasuk says Yitamu chataim min haaretz u'rshaim odenam, that the chataim, the reshaim, should be finished away. That doesn't mean they should die. It means they should stop sinning. They should not be chataim anymore because there are no sinners. They stop sinning. And the Gemara says Rabbi Meir actually listened. And they start davening for them to do tshuva, and they all did tshuva. The Gemara says that, right? So tefillah for ruchaniyut also works, as Rabbi Yisrael Salanter used to say. That's one of the primary jobs of Kohen Gadol, or any leader, says the Gemara, and therefore it's not such a chinam. It's not for no reason. They have a foothold when they give that curse, when they daven that negative tefillah for the Kohen Gadol. It's not chinam. They have a taina, they have a reason to be upset with him, because he should have davened that these accidental deaths should not happen, and it did. So therefore, it's going to come unless the mother is going to go appease them. Now, Ve'ika Dematni, the second language in the Gemara is slightly different, because the first language sounds like when they don't daven, parv, they don't daven, nothing bad is going to happen to Kohen Gadol. That's it's clearly mashma, right? Second language is even more severe. Listen to this. It's not merely enough that these people are not going to daven for him to die, but they must be davening for him to live. Because if they don't daven, period, nothing. They just sit there, go through Shas and poskim, right? In Arei Mikla. What else are you going to do? Like, yeah. You go to jail, you get a set of Shas, Bavli, and you finish Shas a few times. If they don't daven for him to live, he's going to die. Automatically. Without them davening that he's going to die, he's going to die. So you need them to daven for him to stay alive. Why is that? Says the Gemara, listen to this. Tama de matzlu. Says the Gemara. Halo matzlu mighty. If they don't daven anything, the guy is going to die, the Kohen Gadol is going to die. The Gemara says, yes, he's going to die even just like that. Why? Why is he going to do? What did he do wrong already? And the Gemara gives, of course, the same answer. But before that, the Gemara says, in mashal, hacha amrinan, the surprise of the Gemara, says, what was in him to do? What should he have done? And the Gemara says, hacha amrinan, in Bavel, they would have an example for this. Tuv yachata vezigud manged. This guy did an avera and you lashed the other guy. This guy killed someone b'shogeg, right? The rotzeach. And now you're going to kill, you as Hashem, you're going to kill the Kohen Gadol. What did the Kohen Gadol do wrong? Now, this is not just a mashal Amemi, that people would say, this is actually a Gemara in Pesachim Daf Kuf Yud Gimal, the end of Masechet Pesachim. There the Gemara says, there was this guy that did an Avera, Tuvia, he actually did an Avera, and there was one Ed that witnessed what happened. His name was Zigud, and he came running to Beit Din to testify what he saw. And what happened surprisingly was the Beit Din pulled up his shirt and started lashing him. Lash Zigud instead of Tuvia. Why? Because there's a halacha that al pi shnayim edim yakum davar. You need two edim to establish anything. If you're an ed echad, it's asur for you to testify because it's lashon hara. Because Beit Din is not allowed to listen to an ed echad. Right? So he got lashes because he said lashon hara. But at the end of the day, it ended with a very ironic situation that Tuvia did an avera and Zigud got the lashes for Tuvia. So this became like a mashal in Bavel that they used to say whenever some ironic situation like this would happen, that someone else instead of the real guy would get punished, they would say, oh, Tuvia chata ve'zigud mangit. But it's really a Gemara in Pesachim. Says the Gemara, Hatam in Eretz Yisrael, they would say a different example from Tanakh, from Chumash. Where do you have this? Amri Shchem Nasiv umabgai gazir. Shchem, the son of Hamor, the story of Yaakov Avinu and his daughter Dinah, Shchem was the one that kidnapped Dinah and married her for his own selfish lust, and ended up that Mavgai, this guy Mavgai, or according to Aruch, all of the farmers, all the city basically, all the laymen had to do Brit Milah because he wanted to marry someone. So says the Gemara, Amalu Hausava, same answer. Hausava, which is sometimes a reference to Eliyahu Navi, Mipirgeda Rava Shmiali. I learned this from Rava, Shehaya lahen lebakesh rachamim al doran velo bikshu. The answer comes the same. Powerful answer. The leaders have responsibility for their generation. Part of their responsibility is not just to educate people, but to daven for them that these types of accidental sins should not come about by the community that's under their command. Velo bikshu, they didn't do it, they will be punished for that as well. Now the Gemara brings a fantastically powerful raya to this, and the Gemara actually, the Mefarshim, the En Yaakov, the New Yada, say that this story indicates that the second language of the Gemara is really correct. The more severe language is the correct language. Ki hada'u gavra, there was a story in the time of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ki hada'u gavra de achle arya berchok tlata parsi. Mineh Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. There was a fellow that was killed and eaten by a lion 12 miles almost away from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. 12 miles is a lot. It's a pretty, you go on a map and you see 1 mile diameter. Right, takes you from here to Westwood. It's a massive distance. 12 miles diameter is a large area. It's a large area. And this was a tragedy that happened in the time of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi in his vicinity. Right? It's considered his diameter, his, kotiv of his influence. And Eliyahu Navi, who had a chavruta with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi on daily basis, did not show up for a bunch of days. Just didn't come. Right? Stopped learning with him. Eliyahu Navi did not speak to him 3 days. And when he came back, he said, what happened? He said, yeah, it was your responsibility that you should have made sure that this doesn't happen, and you didn't. It's on you. This is on you. It's considered your avera, and I'm not learning with someone that's about avera. Do tshuva first. Yeah. Can you imagine that, right? Now, the Ben Ishchai, the Ben Yehuda asks a simple question on this. Gemara in Sotah, we mentioned this before, the Gemara in Daf Chet, there says that even though that the Sanhedrin was batil, we don't necessarily have the applications of the corporal punishment of mitat bedin, capital death, But the din of arba mitot lo batil, the Gemara says. The halacha of the capital punishment is still there. If somebody, and the example the Gemara gives is, if someone is chayav skila, you know what happens? He either falls from a cliff, or a lion comes and knocks him down. There you have 600, 700, 800 pounds, knocks him down and kills him. So that's skila. So if someone is chayav skila and he dies, what's Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's problem over here? And the Ben Ish Chai says, listen to this, says, yeah, this guy, Taka was chayav mita even. It makes it even more nuanced and more profound. He says, but the lion that would punish a person for skila would not eat him. Would just apply what is due, which is skila. It will kill him and leave. This one, achle aryeh, it was it's nivul amet. It's a pretty disgraceful situation when it's tore apart, the body parts are all over the place, and it was half eaten by a lion. That is already the extra thing that should have been prevented by zchut of Rabbi Shimon. You have a Gemara that says the entire generation that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lived in, there was no anger from Hakadosh Baruch Hu towards the nation. There's no show of a rainbow in his entire life, because his existence, his Torah and his Tefillah would shield and prevent the generation from the wrath, the anger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is something powerful. Again, it becomes a responsibility that lies on the shoulders of Klal Yisrael's leaders. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda. It's pretty scary and powerful and beautiful. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Kilelat Chacham afiru bechinam hiba'a. The exception to this rule is Kilelat Chacham, a person that has a high standing of Kedusha, of Torah. Even if he gives a klala for no good reason, that klala is going to take hold. It's pretty scary. Menalan, how do we know? Achitofel. Achitofel got punished because of words of David HaMelech, even though that the words David HaMelech said end up being not a source for klala. Listen to what happened. David HaMelech, his entire life, he aspired to find the place of the Beit HaMikdash, to build the Beit HaMikdash. We have in Mizmor Kuf Lamed Bet, where he takes an oath. He says, I'm not going to put my head down, not going to enter my house until I find the rightful place of the Beit HaMikdash, right? And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu even told him that he can't build the Beit HaMikdash, he devoted his entire 35 rest of his kingship and his life to amassing tremendous amounts of gold, silver, wood, everything that Beit HaMikdash needs. That Shlomo HaMelech, his son, as soon as he takes office, he should be able to build. So part of it was he started laying foundation for the Beit HaMikdash. Things that he could do, he started doing. And when he was digging in Shittin, in that place of the bases of the platform for Beit HaMikdash, there was an accident that happened. The accident was he hit a deep source of water, which started pouring water out, and it would flood the entire country, kill many people. And that was a communal catastrophe. So says the Gemara, B'shashkar David Shitin, Kafa Tehoma, Ba'al Mishtefala Alma. This was flooding the world, was flooding the neighborhood, the country. So says the Gemara, Amar, Ma'u Lichtov, he had a question, David HaMelech. Ma'u Lichtov Shem HaChaspa. He says, I know, Kabbalistically, a Shem HaMeforash I could write, and I could drop it in the source of water and it will stop. But I don't know if it's mutar to do that when the Shem is going to be erased, is going to damage, is one of the lavim of the Torah. Lo ta'asun ken la'Hashem Elokechem, the pasuk says, is talking about dismantling and disrespecting anything that resembles Hashem's name. So erasure of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is an avera min Torah. So how can I do it? Can I not do it? Right? And the Ben Yehoyada says that over here he knew the halacha himself, David HaMelech, but he had his Rebbe in the crowd, and he did not want to be moreh halacha bifnei Rabbo. There's a hierarchy. The hierarchy in Klal Yisrael is in such way that if you have your Rebbe there, you cannot pass in halacha in front of your Rebbe. If you do it, it's chayav mita. It's not good. So who was his Rebbe? Right? Achitofel was his Rebbe, right? Ata enosh ke'erki alufim yudai asher nachtav namtik sod bet Elohim na'alech beragesh. He called him his Rebbe. He called him his aluf and meyuda, right? So therefore, he asked. Says the Gemara. He asked. He said, "Can I do this? Anyone that knows the halacha?" Lekat de Amar lemidi. Crickets. Everyone's quiet. Amar. He said. He knew that Achitofel knows it. Amar kol hayodea davar ze ve'eino omro. If you know it and you're not saying, yechanek bikrono. He should choke on his neck. It's a curse that David HaMelech gave. If you know and you don't say, so that is a conditional klala. That means if you know and you are going to say it, nothing, right? So that's bechinam. Because Achitofel ended up saying it right away. Nasa Achitofel kal vachomer ba'atzmo. Achitofel was one of the wisest men alive. The pasuk says about Achitofel, va'atzad Achitofel asher ya'atz b'yamim ahem kashoel ba'urim. He was such a brilliant person that it was like communicating with him was like communicating with Choshen Mishpat, getting answers directly from heaven. It's tremendous wisdom. So he says, it's a kal vachomer. Umala, so Shalom ben Ish leishto. In Masechet Sotah we learn that the woman that was suspected by her husband, you bring Hashem's name, you write it, and then you erase it in the water in order to bring Shalom and return and restore the trust of the husband to the wife. Amra Torah. Torah says, my name that has been written with Kedusha, Yimacheh al hamayim, should be erased on water. Lekol ha'olam kulo, lo kol sheken. You want to save the world, bring peace, restore peace and life to the whole world, you're not going to be able to do that. Of course you could do it. It's kal vachomer. So Amar le Shari says, mutarim lachem, right? So it says, the Gemara, Katav Shema Chaspa, David HaMelech wrote the Shema B'furash on a piece of clay. Shadi Atehoma, threw it in, and Nachat V'kama Duchte. Everything was quiet down. Shalom al Yisrael. Now says the Gemara, Va'afiru Achi, even though that Achitofel did say it, so it shouldn't be subject to the Klara of David HaMelech. David HaMelech says, if you know and you don't say, he did say, so it shouldn't be subject to the Klara. What happened at the end of Achitofel? We know that Achitofel, again, a little tidbit of history, Achitofel, at this point, he was the right-hand man of David HaMelech. He was the top advisor. The Pasuk actually goes through the hierarchy system of David HaMelech's kingdom, and Achitofel was on the top. But then at some point, he turned against David HaMelech because he was the great uncle. Bathsheba, the whole story, Bathsheba made him bitter, and he turned against David HaMelech. He joined the revolt of Avshalom. He became the top advisor of Avshalom, and they were this close to killing David HaMelech. When David HaMelech had to run barefoot from Yerushalayim with a bunch of his friends and the Aron, leaving everything, his wives behind, everything behind, Achitofel told Avshalom, he said, today is the time. Go after him. He's tired. He is restless. You could go, and tonight you will kill him. And that will put an end before things are reorganized. If you let him have enough time to regroup and reorganize, you're dead meat. Do it now. And David HaMelech was, the only thing David HaMelech was worried about was Asad Achitofel. So on his way, he sees one of his friends, Min HaShamayim, because of the anivut and the humility that David HaMelech had, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mazmin, that one of his best friends bumped into him. He was going towards Avshalom, and David HaMelech asked him, says, go there, V'hafarta li asad Achitofel. Go and ruin the Itzah of Achitofel. And min hashamayim, Avshalom listened to this second fellow, and he told him, "What, you think David HaMelech is a kid? He's waiting for you. He knows you're coming. He knows you're coming. He's ready, and he's angry, like a bruised and hurt bear. You have to regroup. You have to develop your army. You are the one that's in the weak spot. Do it, and then you could kill him." Amin Hashamayim, he left the Itzah of Achitofel. He listened to this. Achitofel knew at that moment that this is over. So he goes home. He writes 3 commands. The Gemara says 3 pieces of sava'ah. One of them being Al Timrudu al Malchut Bet David, do not rebel against Malchut Bet David. That was the second thing he wrote to his children as the 3 pieces of advice that he gave them. And the first one was, don't hold on to machloket, right? Don't hold on to it. This is what happened to him, right? Don't hold on to machloket. Do not rebel against Malchut Bet David. Third one was also related to machloket, says the Maharal, but really was an etzah to make parnasah by Yom Tov Aseret. You should plant chitim if it's a clear day. And then what did he do with himself? He hung himself. Yechanek bigrono. What David HaMelech said years ago as a kilala for Achitofel, which even though that it was conditional, because it was uttered by David HaMelech, a chacham, kilalat chacham, afilu bechinam, afilu al tenai tavo. And that's what happened to Achitofel. ואפילו אחי כתיב, ואחיתופל ראה כי לא נעשתה עצתו, ואחיתופל saw that his advice was not heeded, was not listened by Avshalom, ויחבוש את החמור, he just got on his donkey, ויקום וילך אל ביתו, he went to his house, ואל עירו, to his city, ויצב אל ביתו, he made his sava'ah, his will, he wrote his will, ויחנק, and he hung himself. So that's what the Gemara says about killat chacham, afilu bechinam, va'afilu al tenai yavo. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Abahu. Oh, we're out of time. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue this in the discussion.